good, humans? Hey, how is your weekend going? Let me tell you, Friday was a marathon. I was not ready. Now, today, I'm making fruits, or rather smoothie. In taking care of Nathan, I have to take care of myself so that I can take care of Nathan. And I found fruits every day have kept me a happy woman, or a smoothie. So today, I feel like a smoothie. But what brought me to this video today is something I am very passionate about. I always hashtag in my, almost always, most of the time, in my videos when I make them, that non-verbal is not non-communicative, neither is it non-intelligent. Now, my son is non-verbal. The words don't come out. The understanding bit is there. The formation of the words bit, that one God is still working on. Now, I have said again in my videos, there is many things I can do, and there is many things I often remind the creator and the manufacturer of the child, you have to work on them. So I, even though he's non-verbal, have given him a way of communicating. He uses an iPad to communicate, a communication device, and then in here where the formation, the speech area is, that one I had to remind, do I even need to remind, but I always tell him, that in there, those circuits and transmissions and those wires in there, those ones I can't do anything about. So I often remind God, when we agreed, when you gave me this boy, thou shalt do the internal bit, and I work on the external bit. Now the external bit I'm working on, now I'm still trusting God will do the internal bit, and he and Nathan usually will work on those internal bits in there, and when they are ready to reveal them, they do. Trust the process. So today let me give you a story of how non-verbal kwa mdomo, the mouth, does not mean non-communicative. So I had come from a shift. I had gone to work. I have worked all through taking care of Nathan, and the only reason I'm able to work is because he gets Medicaid, which is able to cover for nursing care for him. So I had gone to work. I had left the boy with a nurse. We've had, at that time, my son was maybe 2016, 17, 18, maybe 2 or 3 years thereabout. So I had come from a shift. I can't remember well if I was working in the ICU at this time or where I was working, but nonetheless, I had come from a 12-hour shift. Now, for me to go to work, I always make sure that my son is well, he's healthy, skin is good, everything is good, so that I don't leave the nurse a mess for her to be handling and worrying about it. And even me, when I am, wherever I am, I won't be relaxed. Give me food. So this day, I went to work, I came back. Nurse handed off to me. Baby's doing good. He was asleep. As is the usual, when I come from work, since he was asleep, I usually go to Nathan's room. I check everything. I check the ventilator, I check the feeding pump, see formula needs adding. I do an examination, listen to the chest, temperature, look at his skin, just regular checkup. So, see, the nurse has gone. Now, me, I was left doing the little assessment. So I go to my son's room, and immediately his breathing is different. The nurse has said everything is good. So as soon as I walk in, his breathing is a little different, and I check a temperature, 103.7 degrees Fahrenheit. In Celsius, for my Celsius people, it is 39.8, 40 degrees Celsius. So 103.7 Fahrenheit. I'm thinking, Sasa, where has this fever come from? Where was it? Sasa is now. Where has this fever come from? Because he didn't have a fever, and the nurse said he had a good night. So My assessment didn't say anything was wrong. Chest sounds good, stomach sounds good, skin is good, ventilator, things are running well. Since this breathing a little fast and the temperature. So I decided, let me give some Tylenol. Tylenol is paracetamol in Kenya, Calpol. So I give medication. Wapi. This fever stays at that 103.7, does not even come down at not even points, nothing. It refuses and stays there. So I said, let me give it some time. I give it half an hour, nothing. 1 hour, even higher. Now it's headed for 104. I'm like, this is weird. So when I'm taking care of Nathan, I go with my gut feeling. And this time, gut feeling didn't say, you need a consult over the phone, which I usually do. I did call the pulmonologist and let her know, I'm not very sure where this fever is from. I'm on my way coming. Now, it was January, which is why I remember this story. Now, I try and not go to the hospital in flu season. We usually do a lot of over the phone management with the pulmonologist, the one who deals with the lungs, so that I don't go to the hospital. We'll try and do as much management as we can at home to avoid the hospital, because the hospital, as good as it is a place, it is also a hub of germs. You might go with one thing and grow a few more in there. You don't want more plants. In my head, I don't want more plants. I don't want him to grow anymore. So we try and avoid the hospital. But this fever made me a little uneasy because it was just out of the blue. So I go to the hospital. I go to the ER. Now, when I get there, the only thing I have wrong is a fever. Nothing else is wrong. But I told them, now, I know it is just a fever. But this fever has refused. Even the whole way, the fever never dropped. It went higher. So the doctor, the nurses listened, and I told them, ain't nothing more wrong. It's just this fever. And what I don't have in my house is I don't have labs and I don't have X-ray. Could you please check for me? And if everything checks out, I will go back home, but I will go back home knowing nothing is wrong. So the people listened and the doctor listened, and the doctor ordered labs. Please remember, the fever is still up there. The nurse here in the hospital has given more Tylenol because the one I gave absolutely did nothing. By the time I drive to Seattle, it was maybe 3-4 hours later. Nothing. It has done nothing. So they give some Tylenol, avocado, and the doctor comes and they do labs. I told them I just check for me. If everything pans out, then I'll go home, knowing everything is all right. Nathan Nani, when they did the labs, all the electrolytes, sodium, chloride, potassium, all those bicarbonate, everything was off the charts. Potassium was low, sodium was low, everything was weird. So they asked me, was he vomiting? I'm like, no, he's not had any dehydration or anything. I'm not very sure what's happening. Where as soon as those lab results came in, the fever disappeared. It went down, 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 and went away. Those labs under the 4-day hospital stay, because you can't raise sodium drastically. It has to be a very slow raise, because if you raise it too quick, it will interfere with your brain. You'll get brain swelling. So it has to be a very slow process, and they have to check every single day. And so we ended up staying for 4 nights in the hospital so that they could raise this sodium to a point where we could go home. And the only thing we added on in his treatment is we give Pedialyte, which in Kenya is, or for my people, that is ORS, oral rehydration salts. And we added Pedialyte so that he can get it as needed. Now, all this to say that Nathan decided, you do know that if you stay with sodium that is either too low or too high, you could get seizures, you could go into a coma. It can go really bad really fast. Now, if your potassium also is too high or too low, it could lead to a heart attack, or rather a cardiac arrest. Your heart can stop. So this day, because I can't see in there, God and Nathan decided we are going to take drastic action. We are going to get this woman's attention, and we are going to go to the hospital, and we are going to get what is needed. Now, if this does not explain to you non-verbal communication matters, it does. Some things, anyway, we ended up coming home, and he did well, but that solidified the fact that I must listen to Nathan. And sometimes some things don't make sense to me, but they do make sense to Nathan, and so I listen to him more. He has very good people discernment. I call it, he has good peoplemeter. He has good shitometer. He can tell when I think people are not good. He has good foolerymeter. He can tell when there's just too much fooling around. He can he has very good people discernment, and if I wish I had that, because mine is a little off, but I listen to Nathan a lot. I have made decisions on nurses who will take care of him just off how Nathan looks, or how he interacts, or how he's, you know, how he's just how he interacts with that person that I want to come into the team. So I have done a lot of decision making, the nurses who take care of him, using that. The other day, I had been clipping Nathan's hair for a long time, but when he turned 7-8 tangerine, I decided to take him to a barber. Now, the first barber we ever went was a very good barber, but his location was a little off. It wasn't exactly wheelchair accessible. So I looked for another one. The other one that I went to was very quiet, and Nathan was not as relaxed. So I decided, ain't nothing wrong with this barber. This barber, he clips his hair good, made beautiful designs, but I don't know if it's called, the vibes was a little off. So I decided to look for another barber. So I looked for another one. The next one we found, Nathan drove in. They usually remove the chair, packed in, and then immediately, you know that brush that they used to brush, asked for it, and this barber gave him. This barber had the son there, and immediately the connection was good. And every time Nathan goes there, this barber talks to Nathan, they communicate. I can sit aside and let them do their barbering thing, and Nathan is happy. And so I use a lot of that Nathan peoplemeter, that silent discernment that sometimes a non-verbal person has, because what you lack in one area, God makes up in another one, or they make up in another one. So Nathan's discernment of people, of environments, of situations is really spectacular, and I've had to lean into that as I'm making decisions on how to take care of him, because at the end of the day, he needs to be comfortable, and I need to listen to him. So all this to say, non-verbal is not non-communicative, and non-verbal is also not non-intelligent. You have to learn to listen to a non-verbal person, because they do communicate. It's just not your outright typical way of communicating. Perhaps you have to find their language. You have to learn their language. You have to learn, I call it Nathan-isms. You have to learn how Nathan communicates for you to be able to be attentive to them, and for them to feel heard. And sometimes I still miss it, I won't even lie to you, but I've learned how to listen in and to pay attention. Now, if you all this to say, if you do find someone who's nonverbal, please don't assume that they can't understand, they can't hear, they can't internalize, they can't articulate things. They can. It's just just a different way of communication. Give them some time to get there. Like I always tell people, give Nathan time to form his words on his communication device. Sometimes it's quick with a yes or a no, or a thumbs up or a thumbs down, but find what works for that person. So, are we together? Non-verbal is not non-communicative, is not non-intelligent, and that is how a fever that just ended drastically after the lab results ended up saving my baby, because had I stayed home with him, that sodium and potassium would have caused a lot of trouble. And just that listening to him and being like, I'm not very sure about this, and going in, that was very helpful. So anyway, I can give you countless stories of this, how he listens, how I listen to him, and how I have learned to just eyeball the boy, pay attention, and you will learn. Anyway, does anybody else have these experiences? Put them in the comments. Now, thank you very much to my followers for coming to journey with us. I appreciate you all, each and every one of you. I've connected with so many people sometimes, some people from family and people of all walks of life, and I appreciate you all. For you to understand our journey better, please, I have a post that I have pinned in my profile. It's the first post on my Facebook scrolling thingy, and that has a link that goes to YouTube. And YouTube, I have done a whole series on what spinal muscular atrophy is, and I have done a whole series on my journey with spinal muscular atrophy to getting the diagnosis. And so that might help you understand my posts better, because my posts sometimes might not make sense if you just appear, but they will be helpful to anybody. Anyway, are we together? My smoothie is coming along slowly. God bless you all. Good humans. Bye-bye. Non-verbal is not non-communicative, neither is it non-intelligent. Learn the person, listen to the person. Each and every one of us has our language and our way of communication. Tap into it, dial into it, so that the person can feel heard. God bless you. Bye-bye, good humans.